Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Brave Love at Home. Thank you for watching. I'm excited for you all to listen to this next conversation with Jennifer Lanter from the Gladney Center for Adoption. If you are curious about the adoption process, in particular, what that looks like for adoptive families, this is a really great webisode to pay attention to. So enjoy. So Alex, do you want to get us started?
Yeah. So Jennifer, can you tell everyone watching briefly just what you do and who you work for?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. My name is Jennifer, and I work at the Gladney Center for Adoption. My job is Vice President of Communication and Education, and what that means is I just help develop programs that help people understand adoption and how to better connect our services to the people that need us the most. I'm also a very, very proud Gladney mama.
I didn't realize y'all had adopted through Gladney. I knew that you had adopted mom.
Yes, I started working at Gladney 20 years ago, and we already had our beautiful daughter. She was about 18 months old when I started. We had no problems whatsoever getting pregnant with her. It was super easy and had a pretty easy pregnancy, nothing crazy. And I was working at Gladney, and I'd been working there for about 4 or 5 years, and we were trying to have a baby in that time, and I was just unbelievably laid back about it. I just kept thinking, oh, it'll be next month. Well, next month just kept turning into the next month and next month, and then the heartbreak set in.
Yeah.
And we started, just checking it out, and I didn't think it would be anything serious. They could never really figure out what was going on. So then we were labeled with the diagnosis unknown secondary infertility. And so that's when we knew what the answer was immediately.
Yeah.
It was such an easy answer. We started the adoption journey, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, put on your Gladney hat. I guess you can't ever take off your adoptive mom hat, but will you just walk us through kind of step by step what that process looks like for a couple that is pursuing adoption, from the time that they contact Gladney for just more information, to kind of beginning to end? What are those steps? Because I know there are a lot of steps, and it can obviously be a very overwhelming process, especially if families are coming to the table with a lot of emotion, a lot of loss, and a lot of grief there. So will you just explain to us how it works?
I'm excited to, and I'm excited that you acknowledge that families do come to us with they're in grief. They are mourning a lot of different things, and they're also usually overwhelmed because there's so much adoption information out there, and there's so many different kinds of adoption. So one of the things that we recommend is that you really just take the time to research, just like you would any other kind of big project that you're starting on. And part of the research is finding out what kind of adoption you want. Do you want international adoption or domestic infant adoption? Do you want to adopt from the foster care? And you may not know those answers, but at least you can start asking questions about that.
Sure.
And so our website is designed to help people answer those questions. We have like a little kind of, I don't want to call it a quiz, but like a little survey they can take that helps direct them, ask them a very few simple little questions, and helps direct them on, what program might be best. I'm going to talk about primarily domestic infant right now, just because that's what Brave Love is about, and that's what Life is about. So so when a couple inquires through us, they go on our website and look around, and they initiate what we call like an information sheet. And it's just a very simple, like name, age, address, that kind of thing. And we invite them to orientation. Orientation looks a little bit different during COVID-19 than it does normally. Normally, they would come to our campus and learn all about the adoption process from A to Z, and then meet their caseworkers and see other adoptive families. That's actually a really compelling part of the process that we hear from a lot of people, is that when they walk in and see other couples who are facing some of the same challenges they don't feel so alone.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing. So they learn about adoption, and right now we're still doing that. It's just online
Cool.
in a Zoom meeting. So they do get to see other people still, just not in person.
Right.
And they go to orientation, learn about the process, and we try to break it down step by step for them because, as you said, it is kind of overwhelming sometimes. After they attend orientation, if they feel like that was a good fit for them, and I want to say, just as an adoptive mom, you really do get a feel pretty early on if you're working when you're working with an agency on what, like, if you have a good feeling about it, like,
Sure.
do you feel like this is the agency for you? And the good news is that there are lots of great agencies, and there are lots of great adoption professionals that want to work with you and help you. And so you just have to find the one that you feel like kind of aligns with kind of your values and your principles and how you feel.
Yeah.
And so usually we hear from adoptive families that as soon as they walk through the door and they just knew this was right for them. And that's a good feeling. I remember sitting in that orientation room with my husband because I wanted him to partake of every part of the process too. And I just remember thinking, this is our family. This is our extended family. And I didn't know at the time how important that would be, but my Gladney family is really important to our overall family. So I had a lot of trust in Gladney, and that's a good feeling. So once you go to orientation, then you go home and you have your application and you start that process. And that can feel a little overwhelming because it's a lot of pieces of paper.
Sure.
But it's really important that we understand, what you want from your adoption, make sure that you're ready to move forward, that you've kind of are dealing with your infertility issues or your grief and loss, and that this is the next right step for you. So you work on the application, and after that is completed, then you do a home study, and that's by a licensed social worker, and they just go in the house, look around, make sure everything's, good and that everybody's on the same page with moving forward with the adoption. And then after the orientation, then comes kind of like the official approval, which is a big step in the adoption process.
Yeah.
And then you start putting together your profile book. And I can only speak from experience,
Sure.
but for me, that was really an emotional part of the journey because I was trying to put on paper our family and make us come alive. And I knew it was a really important part of the process. I knew that birth moms would connect with us, or expectant moms would connect with us via this tool. And I wanted to represent us, but more importantly, I just wanted to connect with her. I just wanted to reach out, and if I could just give her a big old hug
Sure.
through that profile book, I would have. And I still get emotional talking about it because
Sure.
I really knew a lot about what she may be facing just because of my job. And I wanted to make sure that she knew that no matter what, that we would love her and that she would be part of our family, and that we were just really grateful for the opportunity for her to even look at our profile book. Nowadays, profiles are not just paper books, but they're also digital. So that's important because we want to make sure that we know that women are looking for adoptive parents, not necessarily an agency. And so it's important that our adoptive parents are out where people can find them. So they put together their profile book, and that's actually something that Gladney does for them now. So that's like a new innovation kind of thing that we're doing, and they really like it. It takes a little bit of the pressure off of them, and they have a big voice in that, Laura. Like they get to we'll send it to them, and they're like, no, this is not what I meant when I said this, or but that's probably one of my favorite parts, is just helping them walk through that, because they're usually really nervous about that.
Sure. I love that. Okay, so profile book, one or virtual one, whatever they choose to do. What's after that?
So after that, then comes the part that I call anticipating. They're just waiting for an expectant mom to reach out to them or to us about them. And they're just kind of waiting. This is when we recommend that they take the amazing trip, or They really concentrate on their marriage and doing all the fun things they want to do. And really the wait, a lot of people ask me, how long is the wait?
Yeah.
And that really depends on the couple, I will say, or the family, because the more open a family is about different backgrounds for expectant moms, the more opportunities they're going to have.
Sure.
For us, we were very, very open because we looked in our own family, and whatever mental health or physical challenges there were in our family, we were very accepting. And so I always joke, we had a lot of diversity as far as mental health challenges in our family. And so we wanted to be open to those things too.
That's great.
So the more open you are, the more likely you're going to have placement quicker. The more closed you are, the longer the wait is probably going to be. That's what we typically say. So then during the wait, they have opportunities to engage with potential expectant moms, or then comes the match. So that's the big time when one of our caseworkers will reach out to the adoptive parent caseworkers and say, hey, Camille loves Jerry and Ann. And so she's really wanting to talk to them and meet them. And so they talk and meet. And then if that goes well, then that's considered a match. And they just keep connecting and talking. Most of the adoptions that we do are semi-open to open, leaning more toward the open adoption now, which is a really good thing.
Yeah.
And then once they're matched, then they can start working on what the hospital plan will look like, what delivery could look like, how involved she wants the adoptive parents in the delivery and all that. Usually with the women that we're working with, placement can sometimes be taken like directly from the hospital 48 hours after delivery.
Sure.
But if we don't know who the birth father is, or maybe there's some legal complications we need to work out on the birth father side, then sometimes that placement will be like 30 days. And in that time, the baby will go home with what we call a transitional care family, which is just a family that volunteers for Gladney and takes care of that baby and loves that baby until placement can happen. And then after placement happens, then we have a supervisory period. It's usually 6 months in Texas. And the adoptive parents just send medical records, and we do a home study update just to make sure everything's good. And then after 6 months, the adoption is finalized in the court. And that's when that baby legally has the adoptive parent's last name, and then really the parenting journey just continues from there. I want to say a couple of really important things.
Sure.
If that's okay. We have a lot of education at Gladney because we want to prepare parents for that journey. So Gladney University is an important part of their journey to make sure they're equipped, that they understand what the expectant mom may be facing, that they're not afraid of the process from her perspective, and that they have empathy and love for her. That's really important.
Yeah.
The other really important thing is a lot of people ask me about cost. And cost is a big question because the adoption process, I'm going to be honest, is expensive because birth moms have medical needs. We have counselors, we have social workers. It takes a lot of people to make one adoption happen. And so at Gladney, one of the things that I'm excited about is a couple of years ago, we initiated what we call an all-inclusive fee. So it's just one set fee for everyone, and there's no surprises. And that includes stuff like making in their profile book and those kinds of services, so they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But one of the important things I want families to know is that I don't want them to worry about cost. If they're worried about that, and especially when they see that price tag on our website, to just know that we have scholarship programs and we have lots of creative ways to help them become parents. So they're not in this alone. They have a whole village that's going to help them make sure that we can make their dream of parenthood come true.
I love that. Thanks for mentioning that, because I know the cost is probably one of the biggest stressors, if not the biggest, for families that are adopting. And so I appreciate you explaining that, that there are resources out there to help with financial challenges. So, okay, so let's say, okay, things are moving forward. We're approaching due date. And what happens there? I know the hospital plan can look different for different families and birth moms and whatnot. But can you walk us through kind of, what that hospital experience could potentially look like? And then where is Gladney kind of, you already talked about, 6 months out when the adoption's finalized, but what kind of support services are out there for adoptive parents post-placement?
Yeah, so we know that adoptive parents are they're hungry for information too. So I'll first talk about a little bit about what's available for adoptive parents, and then I'll talk about the hospital plan.
Perfect.
So adoptive parents, they do come to us, in pain usually. Sometimes they've had some bad things happen, maybe the death of a child, lots of unexplained losses in pregnancy, and maybe they've even had a failed adoption before.
Sure.
And so we meet them where they are. Our social workers are really compassionate. They provide a lot of counseling to them, and everybody's different. So one couple may want like a lot of like one-on-one attention.
Mm-hmm.
Others are maybe more independent and just want check-ins now and then. Mm-hmm. So we try to meet them where they are. And then Gladney University is designed, every Gladney family has what we call a My Gladney account. Mm-hmm. And that's where they do all their paperwork, and it's a very efficient system. We try to make it as user-friendly as possible, but also that's where all the education is housed. So if they have like a question about CPR or about attachment, sure, they can just search and find what they need. Yeah. Also, education is a requirement for all of our adoptions, so they have to have so many hours. Sure. But we usually, adoptive parents, it's so funny, they'll say we were kind of dreading the education part, but then that's the part that we love the most, is learning about it. And it's also like preparing for your baby, like getting to, like, you're just that much closer to getting placement, which is exciting. So that's kind of what we offer for adoptive parents. Also, it's lifelong. So all of our services, we have a wonderful post-adoption department, and so we're never going away. We've been here for over 130 years, and we have all the records, all the education, all the support. So if anybody ever needs us, we're just a phone call or just a click away. Mm-hmm. In regards to the hospital plan, so to me, that's a really interesting part of the adoption process, because as we're working with the expectant moms, that's one of they're really worried usually about delivery. Mm-hmm. And so the caseworkers walk through that process with them, mm-hmm, and talk about, like, what do you want the vibe to be like in the room? Who do you want to be in the room with you? Mm-hmm. Who do you not want to be in the room with you? Mm-hmm. And what kind of music do you want? And when you start feeling pain and you're not sure what you want to do, what kinds of things do you want to hear from me? Like, the caseworker needs to understand, like, her role in this, and she wants to know what the client wants from her. So that's a really personal time, and a time where we don't want to cause her more pain or more emotion. We also understand that emotion is really a big part of this part. She's usually super excited for placement, but she's also grieving. And so some women think that they don't want to hold their baby, but we know it's best if they do, but we know that we can't really say that, and she has to feel that. Most people that say they don't want to hold their baby or don't want to see their baby after delivery, they do change their mind, and that's a good thing, because that's a really important time for her. Mm-hmm. And the adoptive family and the birth mom, depending on how close they are, they usually talk about what placement's going to look like. The adoptive parents get really attached to their expectant mom, and so they're also really grieving with her. So placement is this beautiful, bittersweet. Mm-hmm. I do compare it to a birth, because you have pain and joy at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it is, I know with our birth mom, I was just so worried about how she was feeling. Like, is she in physical pain? Like, what is her emotion like? What is she going to think about us? I didn't want her to feel like we were just rushing in to get her baby. And I remember I was like playing with her hair and loving on her. And she said, "Don't you want to meet your son?" I said, "I do, but I just want you to be like cared for." And she's like, "I'm good. I want you to go meet your son." She said, "I worked so hard for him."
Oh,
And it was really neat that she was, so I held my son for the first time next to his birth mother. And it was a beautiful, it's a memory that I'll never forget. I mean, she was right there with me and we were kissing his head together, and we were just so in awe of how beautiful he was. And she was so proud of what she did. And I was so proud of what she did. And it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever been a part of, really. And I, to this day, 15 years later, just incredibly grateful for her. And I'll never forget that time in the hospital. And I'll never forget how brave she was. I just couldn't believe that she had just delivered, she was only 18 years old and just delivered a baby. And she was placing him in my arms, and she was proud of her decision. And she was strong, and I was grateful for that. But women, I also want to say, when they're working on their hospital plan, they're allowed to change it.
Yeah.
And so what they think they want sometimes is different. And that's where we come in. And it's our job to advocate. We're usually present at the hospital. And that's to make sure that she has an advocate, that she understands her choices, that she understands that if she needs more pain medicine, she can have it.
Sure.
We want to make sure that people are using correct adoption language, and making sure that she's aware of just her rights, roles, and responsibilities. And we consider that, if a caseworker, if a expectant mom doesn't want us there, we don't have to be there, but we definitely like to be there to advocate for her.
Right. Can you clarify one thing? Are there 2 caseworkers there? One for the expectant mom and one for the adoptive parents?
There are 2 caseworkers.
If that's what.
At Gladney, yeah.
Right.
Well, some agencies aren't like that. They share a caseworker. At Gladney, it's the birth mom has her own caseworker, and the adoptive parents have their own caseworker, and then that way they each have an advocate, so they can go.
No conflict of interest.
There's no conflict. There's no, we don't want our expectant moms to have to, if she's feeling like maybe adoption is not right for her.
Sure.
We don't want her to feel pressure from the adoptive family just because she cares about them. So that's when our job would be to come in, and if she's changing her mind, if she wants, then on her behalf we go back to the adoptive parent caseworker, let her know that information, and then they contact the adoptive family.
That makes sense. Anything else you want people to know if they're considering adoption?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is adoption is really happy. Even though it's your plan B, it doesn't take away the joy and the excitement of being kind of an expectant parent. That's what you are. You're expecting when you're in the adoption process. And just not to lose sight of the joy that's also involved, and that there's a whole lot of people in this country and other countries that have adopted, and you kind of have this really, I always say that I feel like I'm a part of this really cool club with all these amazing people that are also adoptive parents, and we also all have expectant or birth parents that we that are part of our family, and we're just really lucky. I would have never. I didn't go into my life thinking that I was going to experience secondary infertility.
Yeah.
I would not change that for anything now. That is a huge part of who we are and part of our village. So even though it's plan B, it's pretty dang amazing.
Jennifer, you're awesome. Thank you for your time. And this has been wonderful, and it's always good to see you. And we'll talk again soon, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jennifer. Keep watching, more to come. Have a great day. Bye.